Welcome, everybody. I just thought I'd take a few minutes to talk about something that's really important, and I'm seeing more and more need to discuss this as I'm looking through images, both with my own students and with the web, and it's something that I think makes a huge difference in your portfolio. It's going to make even more of a difference as you get farther and farther down the path of wanting to do this job for a living. Okay. And that's called production value. Production value is everything. There's a difference between doing something half-assed, three-quarter-assed, and all the way. I'm going to give you a couple of explanations. I once gave an assignment to a group of photographers. It's about sports. They had to do a photograph for a poster for a sports team. Any team that had a ball, soccer, basketball, baseball, whatever. One of the students took a ball, put it on the yard, and took a picture of it. That's the lowest production value you can get. It's not going to get you anywhere. No one cares about that photograph. Literally no one cares about that photograph. You have to do something more. You got to light it. You got to find a perfect background. You've got to come up with a concept. I know it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So it is hard. Another photographer showed an image in class one day with a person, a surfer, standing down in the water and absolutely stunning sunset behind them. But they were dark and muddy and gross and didn't have a surfboard with them. They just had, their board trunks. And he said, well, I saw this and I knew it was going to be a good shot. So we went down, but we didn't want to take the surfboards or the lights because, I was tired. Okay, so what you did was waste your time. There's no point to take the photograph. Zero, none, nada. It just existed. Those kinds of photographs aren't going to get you work. Not today. Not today. It is tough out there today. And I know a lot of photographers are struggling. And so I got to tell you, if you let your production values drop below 100%, or hell, 110%, you're going to be in trouble. Production values are everything. Start out with the first thing, lighting. We always talk about lighting. We always say, oh, lighting's the key element. And it is the key element. Now, does that mean you have to go out with 14 pro photos? No, it can be natural light. But I've rarely ever worked with natural light that hadn't been modified. I need to modify it. Just standing someone in the sun, especially in Phoenix, Arizona, come June, July, and August, that's not going to cut it. That's not lighting. That's providing exposure. It's boring. It's hot. Our light gets bad by 9:30 in the morning here in the summertime. Sun comes up 5:45. By the time 9:30, it's way up in the sky and it's not great anymore. And you've got to use white cards and fill cards and silks and scrims and umbrellas and flashes and whatever to compensate for it. Or you just get a photograph of someone just standing in the desert. So what? One of the mantras I'm always telling photographers is, if you think anybody could take that photograph, if anybody on the planet could take that photograph, why are you bothering doing it? Not going to impress me. Anybody could have done that, and anybody will do that. Show me something I haven't seen before. So lighting is a big, big deal. Sometimes I laugh to myself when I see some of these photo gurus online doing lighting classes, and they're doing fashion lighting, and they'll put the model out there on the site, and that's really cool. And they'll bring an umbrella in and they'll stack an umbrella there, and this is how you light it. And I just laugh my ass off. Yeah, that's how you light it. Just stick a damn umbrella up there. Don't need a scrim. Don't need any flags. Don't need a cutter. Don't need a kicker. Don't need an ambient fill. No, just that one frickin' umbrella. Nail it, baby. That's the kind of work anybody can do. Literally anybody can do it. If you think you're going to sell that kind of work, you're kidding yourself. So lighting is a big deal. Production value on your lighting means everything is right. You've got the highlights in the right place. You've got the shadows at the right place. You've got the dimension that's created in the picture. You can create photographs with no dimension that are interesting in their own selves because they have no dimension. Maybe it's a very flat look you want. That's a unique image. Most images, you're going to need some dimension, some depth. Now, equipment is another place where you can't fall down. That doesn't mean everybody has to have a $50,000 camera. It doesn't. It means that you use the camera that you have to its utmost ability. I have a little point and shoot camera. I'm going to hold it out. I don't know if Zoom's going to see. I have this little point and shoot camera that I love. This camera does about everything. It has built-in focus stacking. It has built-in stitching. It has 100 different things in it. It's taken me a year to go through this manual and learn everything this camera can do because I don't use it all that often. It's my walk around camera. And usually when I'm walking around with a camera, I have it on manual or auto and I'm taking pictures. But all the other things, all the things that it has in, all the bells and whistles. My question for you, are you using the camera that you have to its top performance? Before you have a reason to go to an R5, have you used your 5D Mark IV to the total bit of performance that it can provide you? If you have, fine. And you need the R5, great. If you haven't, you need to spend the money or you need to learn your gear. So your maximum performance with your gear is really, really important. Location, the third thing, location, set design. What are you shooting? This is where every little bit counts. This means getting in the car or on your bike or on your motorcycle and riding around and looking for the location that works perfectly for you. Whatever the location is, maybe you're looking for a mundane location or maybe you need something very specific. Take your phone and make photographs of location because location can mean the difference between an okay shot and a really great shot. It's just perfect. Don't rush it. Don't go, oh, this is the first street corner that I come along and shoot at. Make sure that you've spent time to find the location that works because this is part of your production value. Is it really appropriate and really perfect? It's one place where you can sort of separate the amateurs from the pros. The pros will find that spot. The amateurs will settle. Don't settle. Number 4 is talent. The right people in your picture can make the total picture work. I know some of you have heard me say, if you're shooting fashion, the model can't be under 5'8". Short girls aren't fashion. They're talent. That's fine. You can shoot them for talent. I'm not saying you shouldn't shoot short girls. Nothing against short girls. But if you're shooting for your fashion portfolio, they better be 5'8" or taller because the agent looking at your portfolio can tell by looking at the photograph how tall the girl is. And usually within about a half an inch, they're good at it because that's what they do. And if you're shooting a bunch of 5'4" girls, not saying they're unattractive at all, they're great talent, but if you're shooting them as fashion, they're going to wonder if you know what fashion is. Do you understand? You're showing them a 5'4" girl, and they're going, why are you shooting 5'4" girls if you were shooting fashion? Girls are 5'8" and above. There's a reason for it, by the way. It's not just because they picked that number. There's a reason for it. Find out what that reason is. It has to do with the dress and the runway. Post-production. Are you good in Photoshop? That's not good enough. You got to be great in Photoshop. You got to be able to do what you need to do in Photoshop. You need to know exactly how to create the images you see in your head in Photoshop after you've taken them. Do everything you can in the camera. I'm still old school enough to say, if you're shooting and then fixing in Photoshop, you're an amateur. I don't care. Do what you want. You got to shoot it right in the camera. Then you've got to take it into Photoshop, Lightroom, Capture One, DxO, whatever you use, and you got to make it perfect. Not good, not pretty good, perfect. You should push yourself for better every time you do it. If you're not pushing yourself for better, you're wasting your time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some photographs. I'm going to use a selection of photographs of chocolate that the students at Project 52 have done over years, and we're going to look at production values and how shooting chocolate itself presents a real challenge for photographers. So I'm going to share this chocolate with you here, and we are going to take a look at it. So we should be looking at chocolate now, right? Yeah. Yippee. All right, so this is a really, really great shot by Daniel Franks, and you can see it's these blocks of chocolate. Look at the highlight on the main side here. Look at this highlight. You see how smooth that is? Do you see how the highlight comes right around here on the chocolate and you never lose the little ridges? Even there, the ridge shows up. Even there, the ridge shows up. This is very careful lighting. Softbox scrim on this side, big fill on this side. We still have this beautiful liquid chocolate. And look how perfect this chocolate is. If you've ever shot with chocolate, you know it's really hard. Most of the stuff, this was a mess. I mean, it was chocolate dust everywhere and little lines. If you touch the chocolate with your fingers, you just screwed up. You got to use gloves, etc. Built this beautiful little structure here. How did he do it? Well, he did it this way. There's this softbox scrim there. There's the little set that he built. Notice he's got a background that I believe he created this background, if I remember right. Fill card in close. He's working very, very close and very tightly within the constraints of this little set here to create this really killer shot. That's a lot of gear here for a picture of a stack of chocolate. If you're too lazy to go and get the foam board and fill it in, you don't have any reason to shoot the picture. If you're too lazy to not spend the time, do you notice how the softbox is below the table? That's because Daniel found out that if it was above the table, he couldn't get the highlight down into this last block of chocolate. Had to move it down below. Beautiful shot here. Look how beautifully the chocolate is cleaned up. Have you ever played with this kind of chocolate with the broken, dusty ends and the stuff that breaks off in here? That's not allowed in chocolate photography. And chocolate photography is really hard, really, really hard. That's not allowed. It's got to be perfect. Now, you can go to the magazines and you can pull out a chocolate. In fact, I did. I just pulled out a chocolate shot this weekend from a local magazine, had chocolate in it. The chocolate wasn't retouched, and it was just gross. It was just crap. And yeah, it was printed in a magazine, so what? It's garbage. You got to fix it up. You got to have great production values. You're just wasting your time. Look at this set. I know it's hard to see here, but you can see the light, that softbox here, hard light over here. We got a light on top. We've got 3 lights on this with a background and a background light just to get this simple shot here. And that's like 1, 2, 3, 4 lights to shoot a thing of chocolate that's not even 8 inches wide or tall. That's a lot of work into it because that's what you do. You do a lot of work to do a really good shot. You get a shot like that in your portfolio, people take notice. Look at the liquid highlights everywhere. Look how beautiful the chocolate is lit. Stunning. Love this shot. This is Asha. And Asha wanted to create something where the light felt like it was just kind of sneaking in early in the morning, Christmas morning type thing. And she's created this lovely little shaft of light, still picking up the silver up here to have us continue this great leading line that goes across the page here. Notice the little bit of torn edges on the burlap here, the chocolate chips that are laying around here, the chocolate chips that were carefully wiped down with a little tiny bit of olive oil so that they're not all white with that white dust, that little covering they get on them. These are perfectly chocolates. How beautiful. All of these were wiped down, individually wiped down. It's called production value. Here's what she did. She actually built her big light over here coming forward, and then she's using a flag and another flag here to sort of direct this little shaft of light into her set. Look at the work that went into it, covering up the top with black because she was getting light off the ceiling that was coming in and creating light that wasn't motivated. In other words, there wasn't any reason for those highlights that were developing back in here on the tops of these. She wanted it to have this look like it was coming from a fireplace or from a very early morning shaft of light. Production values all over this thing. Great shot by Rick Bouthier. And have you ever cut a chocolate cake? Doesn't cut like this. This was a lot of work, meticulous work, not only on the set, but then back in Photoshop to clean this up really well. Notice the bubbles, the little bubbles up there in the top of the chocolate milk. That tells us it's fresh, recently poured. Look at the great highlights that we have here. All through here, we can see the tops of every one of these chocolates. And these chocolates down here were wiped down, but not wiped down with olive oil. They were wiped down to still look like cooking chocolate. In other words, they weren't perfect cooking chocolate, but that heavy amount of dust was taken off so that they're all brown. Making sure that it lit up in here, making sure the inside was clean, making sure the table dropped off into the darkness so that the chocolate milk came up into that background. Beautifully composed, really well done. And it took flying a light over the top, and he's leaving out a few things. He had a scrim back here that's not in this shot to make the background go dark, and created this lovely thing with the light. I don't know if you can tell from this wide angle shot, but that light's really only about 18 inches above the set here. The closer you bring your light, the better. When you're shooting this stuff, bring your light in as close as you can get it without it being in the camera, and start there. You can always move it back. Great. Start close and move it back to taste. That's how you light. Fantastic shot by Rob Scamp. I just love this shot. Look at the careful attention to detail. The cinnamon that was put in at the same angle as the little block here. The white on the block that was added before the block was sat down to almost imitate snow on a roof. This is, hot chocolate, make these brownie types things. Here's the chocolate that goes into it. Look at the shaft of light coming in this way. It's a stunning photograph. It's well designed. Nothing fails on this photograph. This took Rob quite a while. This wasn't a 10-minute setup. If you're going to shoot this kind of setup, allow yourself the time to do it. Here's his setup. He's using basically what's called bright field lighting. He's scrimming in these with these flags till a little shaft of light comes down through here. But he's kept the light high. Do you see that? These only go up so high so that this light up here is peeking over the top. Let's look at the image again. See how there's light back here? This light is not coming from that little shaft between the two flags. This light back here is coming from the scrim that's way up above it. You have to understand your lighting, understand what it does. Look at the amazing highlights through the chocolate here, on the cinnamon and the sprinkle stuff over here. It's a beautifully done shot. This took a while. Planned and executed beautifully. It's a really great shot by Tarisha Tyson. Love this picture. Notice how everything sort of leads you into the middle here, and yet nothing looks like the star. This is an ensemble cast. This is a chorus with no lead singer. Look at the chocolate against this great old background here. The chocolate, we got this tin plate, the light coming in here, light coming everywhere. This little bit of glow down here just really warms up the picture so well. Nothing falls into too deep a shadow. It's an image that draws you in and keeps you there. Here's how she did it. She created a shaft of light here with a couple of scrims here, and she's shooting on the floor. Painful to shoot on the floor, but it's what you got to do sometimes. Back and see the shot. Isn't it lovely? Simple chocolates, beautifully done. Look at the dish. This is by Catherine. Catherine went out and looked for these little candy dishes. She wanted something special. She put the time and effort into finding these matching candy dishes. Do you see the lace? You don't immediately see it. You just know it's there. You look at the picture and you feel the lace. Now, she could have put this on white paper, I guess. She just laid them out on white paper. It's not going to sell it. Doesn't sell it at all. Beautiful highlights. We got a highlight on this side. And we got a little sharp highlight on that side. You see it? How do we do it? Well, we got a light behind this scrim and a light behind this scrim. There's small lights coming through. She didn't use large lights behind the scrim. She knows that the scrim will give her fill light. It's going to give her the ambient fill all the way around here because the scrim is large. But by bringing the light in really close like this, she created little highlights. The little highlights that give that a real natural and warm feeling. It gives it some contrast to the lighting. It's just a really fun way to light. When you can control your lighting, everything changes. Finally, we have Jennifer Arce. Jennifer's pouring chocolate. If you've ever done a shot like this, you know how challenging it can be. And so she's got a nice big light over here, giving us this hard, sharp, edged specular. Do you see how that transition tells us that this is shiny as hell, right? Look at the liquid highlight, but look at the transitions where it goes from light to chocolate to the true tone. That transition is hard. That's how we know this is glossy. And when we see this big bunch of glossy background, that's the light reflecting off the chocolate that she's dripping into this little bowl. This is a tiny little bowl of chocolate. Look how lovely it is. How's she doing it? You can see that the bowl of chocolate is right down here. She's got this focused right down on it, and she's just pouring it in it's behind the tripod here, and she's pouring it into the little dish from a tiny spout. She's got a soft box, an octabox, a soft card here, and she's working with the tripod, more deliberateness. And that's what's really, really important. So that's what I wanted to talk about, is a little bit about production values. They're up to you. You don't have to do them, but then you don't have to create an image. That's great. And it can be as simple as a natural light photograph of somebody standing outside. But if your values, if the light is right and you are doing it correctly and doing it with deliberate attention to everything, you'll create an image worth looking at. And in the end, that's really all we need to do. I'll see you next time.